Do you really know every type of Kwami in the Miraculous universe, and that each one has its own origin, rules, and unique powers? In this video, you're finally going to understand each of these creatures and what that changes in the Miraculous lore, and even in the future of the series. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Hey beautiful people, I'm Julie, and first of all, do you know what a Kwami is? Simply put, Kwamis are magical beings that represent abstract universal concepts like creation, destruction, protection, time, joy, and more. In other words, they're the physical embodiment of ideas, emotions, and concepts. And whenever a new concept, emotion, or idea comes into existence in the universe, a new Kwami is born from it. But then, what can actually be considered a Kwami? Basically, any entity that comes from a concept or a living idea and needs a host to interact with humans. Don't worry, by the end of this video, you'll have a much clearer understanding of each type of Kwami, and even those miraculous that aren't exactly miraculous. Number 2, Kwamis and Miraculous. Kwamis are magical beings that were born alongside the universe itself. They don't age like humans do. They're billions of years old and essentially immortals, just like the ideas they represent. And these creatures are not visible to human eye. But thanks to an ancient master, the Miraculous were created so that Kwamis could be seen and interact with people, granting magical powers and abilities to whoever wears them, whether they become a hero or a villain. And Kwamis aren't animals, but creatures associated with ideas and concepts, like the ones from the Chinese zodiac. And every Kwami has its own personality, its own way of talking and behaving with its holder, and even a favorite food that boosts its energy and strengthens the connection to the holder. And note that favorite food has nothing to do with the animal they resemble. You see, just because Plagg is a cat-like creature doesn't mean he eats fish or cat food. Nope, he's obsessed with cheese, and the stinkier the better. Ew, seriously, I have no idea how Adrien deals with that. On top of that, every Kwami has a counterpart that plays a role in maintaining the balance of the universe. But the two most important Kwamis, you already know them, Tikki and Plagg, the Kwamis of creation and destruction. They are literally the foundation of everything that exists. Basically, they represent yin and yang, with Tikki being older than Plagg and actually the oldest of all Kwamis. Another key detail about these two is that they're the most sought after Kwamis, not just because of their insanely overpowered abilities to create and destroy, but mainly because of Gimme, the Kwami of reality, the fusion of Tikki and Plagg, capable of rewriting reality and grant any single wish, which alters the entire universe, always requiring a sacrifice to maintain balance. And if you agree that Tikki and Plagg's Miraculous are the most overpowered ones, go ahead and drop a like on the video. It costs nothing and you even get some knowledge out of it too. Number 3, Ringlings and the Prodigious. Ringlings are kind of like distant relatives of Kwamis. We first saw them in Miraculous World Shanghai, the Legend of Lady Dragon. Unlike Kwamis, which represent universal concepts, Ringlings are magical spirits tied to human virtues. Things like honor, justice, loyalty, courage, and more. And just like Kwamis are connected to the Miraculous, Ringlings are connected to the Prodigious, powerful ancient jewel that acts as a vessel for all of them. In other words, this single artifact houses 8 powerful Ringlings. Now, the Dragon Ringling is the most powerful of them all, because in Chinese culture, the dragon symbolizes balance, strength, leadership, and harmony. That's why it basically serves as the core of the prodigious. And when a human uses this artifact, they transform into the form of one of the animals representing the Ringling, like a bear, snake, lion, and so on. These beings aren't as ancient as Kwamis since they came into existence as human societies evolved and developed moral values. That makes them much more connected to human emotions than to abstract concepts. But what really stands out is the fact that the prodigious has a guardian lion called Meishi, inspired by the traditional Chinese guardian lions that protect temples and palaces. Unlike the dragon, which acts with balance and patience, the lion is much more aggressive and straightforward, especially in defense and combat if it senses that the holder isn't worthy or is not ready to use the prodigious. Number 4. Totems. The first time we saw a totem is in the episode Mr. Agreste from season 6, used by the Brazilian hero Irupe. And up to this point in the series, it's one of the most mysterious artifacts we've seen, since we know nothing about it. No power, no transformation, nothing. What we do know is that a totem is not a traditional miraculous like the Chinese or the American ones. It actually feels more like a spiritual artifact, deeply connected to ancestral beliefs, cultures, and especially nature. Thinking about it now, totems might work as a way to channel forest spirits, allowing them to interact with humans, letting the holder use their powers to protect others and their home. In Irupe's case, Rio de Janeiro, aka her home. And honestly, it's about time Brazil gets some spotlight, right? And if there's any Brazilian subscribers here, let me know in the comments and what kind of powers you think Irupe is going to have. As for the origin of the totems, I think they're similar to Ringlings, coming to existence as human societies evolved, probably tied to ancient protective spirits connected to early civilizations, maybe even indigenous cultures. Irupe's totem is Mainoli, a hummingbird known in the Guarani language as Mainoi. And I don't think totems came in a box like the Chinese miraculous box. It's probably more like separate artifacts passed down from parent to child, generation after generation, kind of like the prodigious. Number 5. Sprites. First introduced in Miraculous World, Tokyo Stellar Force. Sprites are robotic creatures connected to the stellar matrix. Each one is linked to one of the 12 zodiac constellations: Leo, Capricorn, Aries, and so on. A person can only transform if they have a fragment of the stellar matrix, which gives them a high-tech superhero suit inspired by the constellation that fragment represents. Now, the look of these sprites is totally different from any Kwami we've seen so far. They have long snake-like bodies and kinda resemble a watch strap, almost like something alien, you know? But instead of the cute expressive faces Kwamis have, sprites feature dark screens with glowing eyes and no mouth at all. They really do look like robots, unlike Kwamis, which came in all kinds of shapes and sizes. All sprites are basically identical in structure. The only thing that changes is their color, which indicates the fragment and constellation they represent. They also have these rectangular ear-like shapes and a pair of tiny arms. Just like Kwamis and totems have a camouflage form and a true form, sprites have that too. In their watch form, which is basically their camouflage mode, they look like regular watches anyone could wear, but in their true form, before transformation, they take on that snake-like appearance. To activate their powers, the holder has to insert their stellar matrix fragment into the sprite while it's in that form. But the coolest part, they don't disappear after the transformation. Instead, they become the actual accessory on the suit, wrapped around the user's wrist. And one more thing, when stellars come together in sync, they can combine into a powerful mecha robot. I mean, let's be real, when you think about Japan, giant robots are one of the first things that come to mind, right? Or is it just me? Hasta la vista!